The gentle art and the slow burn. At 43, Brian Hughes had everything a man was supposed to want. A wife who loved him, a decent house in a quiet neighborhood, a marketing degree gathering dust above the desk he never used, and a LinkedIn profile filled with buzzwords and tumbleweed. What he didn't have was a career. Years had slipped by in a blur of freelance gigs. Short-lived stints at companies that folded or restructured, and promises that sounded good on paper but never paid the bills. Interviews came and went. Some even made him believe, for a few brief hours, that he was on the verge of finally becoming someone. But reality always returned like a bounced check. He started to feel invisible. Then, one late afternoon in June, Vegas heat still clinging to the pavement, Brian sat on a patio outside a cigar lounge waiting on a friend who never showed. He was scrolling aimlessly through job postings. He knew he wouldn't apply to win the lounge owner. An old Puerto Rican named Luis walked out holding 2 cigars. "You look like a man who needs one of these more than me," Luis said. Brian laughed awkwardly. "I've never actually smoked one." "Even better. You won't do it wrong if you don't know what right is." He handed Brian a mild Dominican stick, cut it with a practiced hand, and lit it for him. Brian took a hesitant puff, and just like that, the world slowed down. The noise in his head, the self-doubt, the regret, the pressure, quieted. The smoke curled up like a soft lullaby, each puff a step away from everything that weighed him down. He sat in silence, with Luis for an hour, saying little, just breathing and watching the sun sink behind the strip malls and stucco homes. He went home that night and told his wife, "Lauren, I think I'm a cigar guy now." She raised an eyebrow, then smiled and said, "Just don't get a fedora." A week later, he bought a humidor and 3 cigars he couldn't pronounce. 2 months later, he was back on the mat. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu had been a fleeting love in his 30s, something he took up after watching UFC and realizing he could either age gracefully or age broken. He trained for a few years, even made it to purple belt before work, bills, and life pulled him away. But now, without a career to pretend he had, and with smoke giving him clarity, he returned. The gym hadn't changed much. Still smelled like sweat, tape, and ambition. The newer guys were younger, faster, louder, but he had something they didn't. He knew how to breathe. Day by day, roll by roll, he settled back in. Old man strength. The younger guys would joke, until he'd sweep them from mount and choke them slow, like boiling a frog. Brian earned his brown belt 9 months after returning. Quietly, no fanfare. Just a pat on the back from coach and a nod from the other vets. He celebrated by smoking a full-bodied Nicaraguan out back behind the gym. Shirt soaked, knuckles scraped, heart full. His wife had started calling in his holy trinity: the mat, the smoke, and the silence. She didn't mind. He was calmer now, more centered, less bitter about the world not living up to his promises. He still sent out resumes sometimes, but only when he felt like it. And when the rejections came, he didn't spiral. He just lit up a cigar, stepped outside, and let the disappointment burn slow. He wasn't sure when it happened. Maybe it was the day he passed a kid's guard with perfect pressure, or the night he smoked a Cameroon-wrapped beauty while reading an old philosophy book. But somewhere along the way, Brian stopped caring about what he was supposed to be. He wasn't a brand. He wasn't a job title. He was a man who loved 2 things: rolling and smoking. The gentle art and the slow burn. Some nights, he'd sit alone in the garage, the lights off except for the amber glow at the tip of his cigar, replaying rolls in his head like film. Other nights, Lauren would join him, curled up with her wine, and they'd talk about nothing important at all. He wasn't chasing success anymore. He was chasing peace. And for the first time in a long time, he was catching up.